Find your comfortable seat, whatever that looks like today. I keep not finding the little stand that used to hold all this stuff. All right. Well, I will try to keep an eye on the chat here. Put it in a very nondescript spot. So find your comfortable seat. We've been sitting here for a couple of minutes for some of us. If you would like to adjust your seat, switch the cross of the legs, makes use of any sort of extra supports. A few people are in Virasana here, and you're welcome to take that as well as one way that I've been giving opportunities to start our classes a little differently sometimes. Oh, that's not the right one. So, if you would like to, you can either keep your hands rested where they are. Is there sound coming out? Yes, there is. You can bring your hands to heart center. You can bring one hand to the heart, one hand to the belly. If that is how you feel moved in a way to bring yourself to your practice. You don't have to have your eyes closed, but if you do have them open, can you allow your gaze to be soft and unfocused? And as we all come in here together, notice how it is to be in stillness with your fellow yogis, and just to arrive at your practice. It's an opportunity for me to share just a little bit more about where I am in planning my classes. Talking today about non-attachment or attachment. There's an end of something that is happening. There is the beginning of something else that is happening. And as always, those things often land in the middle of other cycles. And so the idea of non-attachment in yoga isn't about being cold. It isn't about being distant. But it is about recognizing and having a good relationship with what we choose to bring into our lives. Everyone who's shown up today has chosen to bring a physical practice and a physical experience of yoga into your life, at least for in this very moment. And we come to yoga to stretch, and certainly in this class and other classes here, there is a strength and a power element to that as well, because those two things go together really well. But when we open ourselves in other ways, it is opening ourselves up to possibilities that we can't yet know. And it can hurt. And as a relationship therapist, I talk a lot about this with people in non-yoga words. But it's why strength is a part of our practice here, and the idea of the studio, so that we are strong for ourselves, to support ourselves when things get difficult. Because they do, whether we open ourselves up or not. And it is a different experience to do that with opening. If you've had your own intention in coming to the practice, place it in the space in front of the heart. Allow yourself to take one nice full breath without it feeling straining. Feel the chest and the belly and the back body and the hips open and expand. And exhale out however you might. Let your next inhale move in and down a little deeper still, again, not to the point of strain. And just before the exhale is about to begin, can you activate your core, drawing your belly button in and up to sit taller as you follow the air up and out with more intention, as you lengthen the low back. And on the next inhale, following the movement of the breath, release the hands back to your lap. Find that engagement of your core once more. And on the exhale, as the eyelids lift following the movement of the air up and out, let your gaze start to focus. And if you're in Virasana, it is easier to come forward into a tabletop position. If you're in Sukhasana, however you need to, make your way to a tabletop position here. Starting here with a good, strong foundation, we're thinking about stability, we're thinking about strength. Before we even come to a space of opening much more than we are already here, let the fingers spread wide, grip the mat with the finger pads. You can untuck the toes to stretch out the tops of your ankles. I've already been in shoes for 4 hours today, so this feels nice. And there's a tendency for the belly to drop and to start to move into a cow shape. But rather than that, can you find that engagement of your core to stay neutral through the spine, finding a little bit more space between the hips and the shoulders, not because the ears or the shoulders are creeping up to the ears, but because we found length through the side body. And just take a nice full breath in. If you would like to, you can let the head drop for a second just to see if you can see the toes between the knees. And if you can you take your feet just a little bit wider, that there's no twisting or torquing happening. Torquing, not twerking, but maybe that's a thing too. In your knees here on the mat. And we'll start to move through some cow and cat stretches. And if you would just like to move into your regular old, how you're familiar with cat-cow stretches, go for it. If you would like to try something a little extra with it, we're going to step the right leg back, but keep the ball of the foot to the floor. Find a nice stretch through the back of that leg. You can press the heel back. You can press the hands down and away. Where are you initiating this movement? And keeping that outer right hip heavy, you might want to start to hike up a little bit. And you can make some little pulses on your way to bigger movements. It always gets my calf here on this side. And if you're making these little pulses or whatever sort of movements are there, bring your shoulders back over the wrist. You'll probably do that by pushing that right foot back or down and back. And now with our right leg long, already some stretch through the quad and the hip flexors. Hands pressed down, hug back to the knees. Come into a cow stretch with your right leg extended behind you. On the exhale, press the hands down and away and come into a cat stretch again with the right leg extended, getting a stretch through the back there and a stretch through the front. 1 or 2 more times, depending on how you're moving with your breath. Inhaling through cow and exhaling through cat. Letting this really be full body, shoulders, hips, neck, core, back leg. And on your next time coming through cat, inhale to neutral. You can bring that right knee forward. If you need to give a rest to the wrists, you can push back to child's pose for a breath or two. We're going to come off of that left knee right away here for those of us who are ready to keep moving. Extending the left leg back, finding those little movements. Letting these asymmetrical poses show us how things are different on each side and staying curious about it. Calf, whatever the sensation you have. Come back to stillness in a more neutral table with your left leg extended. And inhale, hands pressed down, hug back to the knees to pull the heart forward into your cow stretch. Exhale into your cat. About the same number of times on this side as the last side. Again, noticing any differences on this side, noticing in general if this is just a more active cat-cow stretch for you. And as you find yourself at about that even number, inhale to neutral through your cat. Press back to child's pose for all of us. Untuck the toes. You can keep the knees and feet parallel. You can take them a little wider or a lot wider. And if what you need right now is to have the forearms stacked to rest your forehead, do so. You can also press the finger pads down and have the palms lift and start to bring more power into the wrists, the forearms, more lift and stretch into the shoulders. And keep it a little more active. Our core stays engaged to tuck the tailbone a little bit more so we have this nice stretch through the low back. Good. If you have the palms lifted, bring the palms back down to the floor. And as you both push into the tops of the feet and pull back on the hands, rise back up through your table. Walk your hands further toward the top of the mat. You can keep your knees right where they are, and rather than taking puppy pose as we sometimes do, let the hips come forward with you so you're in a supported plank. Some people can stay here. We're going to come into either forearm plank or full plank. So if you like to come into forearms, lower down to your forearms. We'll give some other cues for this to support a bigger pose that we're going to get to before long. Or you can keep the forearms parallel for something like, well, just a different variation here. If you would like full-on plank, press back through the heels, lift the knees with the hands grounded. And maybe this time it is little pulses with both heels pressing back. Little movements of the shoulders over the wrists just to show us how things feel in the wrist here in this moment. Good. Another breath or two here in our planks just to get warmed up. We're hugging the inner heels or the outer heels toward each other at the same time that the inner thighs are lifting, at the same time that we're engaging our core to stay really strong and active here. Front body, back body. Good. If you're in forearm plank, you'll lower the knees, come to the hands. If you're in plank, you'll press the hands down and away as you start to hike the hips up and back for down dog, our first one for everyone. No worries, it's that time of year. And in your down dog, we're starting here first with hips square to the floor. You'll hear that a bunch more. But at the very beginning here, if it's right for anybody, you are welcome to take your right leg up and back. Keep the hips square to start, and from this place of square hips, bend the knee, open the hip up, and as the right knee is lifting, push more into the left hand so that the chest and the upper torso stays parallel to the floor. Good. Inhale, come back to three-legged dog, to down dog. Switch sides here, left leg up and back without the outer hip lifting to start. Then the knee bends. Then the hip opens as you ground down, pushing more into the right. Good. On your next inhale, with the left leg still lifted in your three-legged dog, we're going to take a big step forward. With that foot, you can come through core plank if you'd like the extra work here for a second before lowering your back knee. It can be directly under the hip. It can be further back, depending on where that is for you. We'll be here for a little bit, so if you'd like some support on that back knee, do so. We'll come onto the thigh here on the left. Press down, find this length here through the spine and out through the crown of the head. And on the exhale, maybe start to take this lunge deeper, letting the knee move forward of the ankle. Something that is easier and safer to do when we've got the back knee down to stabilize. And you'll start to notice a back bend wants to happen. Without completely taking it out, find that fire once again. So we're lengthening here through the front and back body. Left hand takes outer left thigh, right arm reaches up to the sky. Find this length on the right. We're going to come into a twist here pretty early. If you would like to, it can be right hand to the floor, left hand to the sky. You can also pull down as you activate your bicep and take right elbow to tap the top of the left knee, maybe the outside. It's early, so check in where this is right for you. Stay heavy on the inner edge of this left foot. Left hand comes into right hand for Anjali Mudra. Giving yourself the space that you need for the twist. Good. Keep driving the right knee down and hugging forward so we stay nice and active in that hip and that quad on the back leg. And on the next inhale, come forward, hands to heart center. Frame out the left foot. Maybe bring your blocks with you. We're going to come into Ardha Hanumanasana or half split. That back knee might walk further back. Might walk back a lot. We'll work toward a fuller split as we get to the end of class. But it is left hip moving back, left heel staying grounded. As it stays grounded, it hugs back. That helps to send the right hip forward, helps to stabilize and neutralize the leg here, and push through the big toe ball mound. Now with the blocks, you can walk yourself as far back as you need to. If there is tightness through the low back or glutes that make your half split start to round like cat stretch. Where we want to be is heart reaching forward. So we're going to be here for a few breaths as well. If you have a bend to the knee, take care of yourself. But if it is right, over the course of the next 2 or 3 breaths, the inner thigh starts to get heavier. Maybe that leg gets a little straighter and maybe a lot longer. This is half split Ardha Hanumanasana. In the way that things happen to work in yoga studios sometimes, Hanuman is right here beside me for some other reason. But we've got Hanumanasana coming in. Good. On the inhale, if you're forward folding, start to push into the hands, lengthen, lift up away from that leg. Start to put a bend back into that leg as you come forward. Plant the hands, lift the back knee. You can do this on blocks as well if you would like to. You might lift the left heel, hugging knee to chest even more. You might lift the ball of the left foot and step back to plank. The block just gives us a little bit more space. On the exhale, through chaturanga or knees down for support through your chaturanga, lower halfway down, keeping the fronts of the chest open, the elbows hugging alongside the body. Lower to the floor, untuck the toes. You can take Sphinx pose, replacing the hands with the elbows, or stay here with the hands alongside the chest. Either of those options, tops of the feet press down. Core fires up, heart reaches forward, partly because the hands are pressing down and hugging back. And maybe as the elbows hug to center, we start to press the arms a little bit more straight, rising up a little higher, maybe a lot higher. In what might be your first Bhujangasana of the class, well, it is of the class, maybe the first of the day. Good, exhale to come down. Adding the tricky part that I love to add in here. Moving through 3-legged variations if you would like to. We'll tuck the left toes, point the right toes, and let the right leg lift away from the floor. And you can have the left knee down or not. You can rise up through 3-legged table or push up through 3-legged plank. Back to 3-legged dog. Bend the knee, open the hip. Maybe make some circles with the ankle there. And on the next inhale, moving right on through, back to your 3-legged dog. Through core plank, maybe on your way to step that right foot forward. Plant the foot, plant the back knee. Hands come up on the thigh, right side. Good. Keep driving that back knee down and hugging forward. Find length here through the spine before the twist. Always to do that, but also because we're starting some twisting here pretty early. Maybe it is right hand to the outside of the right leg. Left arm reaches to the sky. Find length on the left. Active through the arm here as you pull down and then cross over. Elbow taps knee or the outside of the knee. The elbow tries pushing the knee in. The knee tries to push back. Maybe right hand comes into left to find Anjali Mudra, side 2. Good. Notice where the breath has to move. And you find fullness and openness in other parts to stay deep in your twist, if that's right. And on the next inhale, untwisting, but keeping the hands at heart center or bringing them to heart center here. Lift and lengthen. And on the exhale, frame out the right foot, making use of blocks or not, taking that left knee further back or not. Right heel presses down and away to send the right hip back. Finding Ardha Hanumanasana, side 2. And hug big toe ball mound to center. Push the big toe ball mound forward as you continue to draw the pinky toe side of that foot back. Walk the hands back as far toward the hips as you need to find more length through the thigh. And here, if there is space, maybe the elbows bend, the heart keeps reaching forward. More neutral than cat stretch, but there will be some cat stretch that happens for sure. Good. 1 or 2 more breaths, allowing your breath to take you deeper. Keeping the chin lifted ever so slightly so our gaze is a little bit more over the toes. That just helps to counter the tendency for cat stretch here. And on the next inhale, start to put a bend through that right knee. Bring the foot back to the floor. Walk that left knee forward some if you need to. Plant the hands, lift the back knee, maybe blocks or not. Right heel lifts. This is harder on this side. Maybe right ball the foot lifts. Step back to plank pose. Good. Let the hands hug to center and push away. Find more space between the hips and the shoulders. And like I was saying, hug outer ankles to center. Inner thighs lift. Core strong. Heart reaches forward. You can lower the knees or not for supported or full chaturanga dandasana. If up dog is part of your practice, feel free to come into that here, untucking the toes, or lowering, coming into your up dog, or cobra if you're doing it that way. Keep the shoulders moving back and down. Keep the heart forward. Nice with the release there. Where do we soften? Where do we open? And on the exhale, come back down to the floor. This time, if you would like to move through the extra, it is tucking the right toes, pointing the left toes, lifting the left leg here, and either right knee down or not, pushing through the ball of the foot, pushing through the hands to rise up through three-legged plank, back to three-legged dog. Take the hip opener on this side now. Second one. Inhale back to your down dog. From your down dog, come forward to your plank. From your plank, lower the knees. Come onto your forearms, either triangle shape or parallel to each other. And if you would like some extra support there, you can take 1 block or a block and a half, depending on how broad your shoulders are. I usually need a block and a half to hug to center. And with elbows underneath the shoulders, step 1 foot and then the other back for forearm plank. Some of us were here already a little earlier. Just notice how it feels with some more warmth and some more movement. And very specifically with our bottom pinky finger tucked in, notice how it is and what the effect is of the power of pushing forearms into the floor like you're trying to lift up without lifting up. Good. So we're going to work toward forearm stand here by the end of class. 20 seconds, 30 seconds here is a great space just to build some strength, and I'll give some other supports for people as we move through the practice to do more with this if forearm stand or dolphin is not right for you. But coming first into dolphin, probably everybody wants to put your knees down for a second, do so. For those of you who aren't, thank you for going here with us. We're going to stay very warm. You're going to stay very warm. Walk both feet back again as you're ready.
If you know that dolphin pose is a struggle, because it is for lots of people, take your feet as wide as the mat, and you'll let the knees bend nice and deep as you start to walk the feet toward the elbows. But that action of continuing to push forearms and outer wrist knuckles on the hands into the floor keeps you from falling over or collapsing in. And you can slowly lengthen both legs with the heels getting heavier. You can walk the feet closer to center and closer in if that's right for you. And keeping the back of the head lifted ever so slightly so our gaze is in the middle of the triangle rather than back at the feet. Really looking out for that low back, or that upper back there in this case. Good. On the inhale, walk the feet back to your forearm plank. Bring the knees back down. If you would like to take child's pose, do so. If you would like to move through a vinyasa flow, go for it. We're ultimately going to find ourselves standing at the top of our mats. Actually, it's only sort of true. We're going to find ourselves in a forward fold here very shortly. Then we'll come to stand. And move with your breath. And as I see more and more people moving their down dogs to Uttanasana, I will invite those of you in child's pose to either move through half of the vinyasa or just take a step forward. Find your forward fold. With the knees wider, or the legs wider if you need to. If you're here for more fire, you can bring the feet almost to touch or to touch with just a little space between the ankles. And we'll be here for 3 breaths, letting the body move and flow with the breath. So on the inhales, you might come onto fingertips. You might come onto hands on the shins or the thighs. And on the exhale, fold in a little deeper. 2 more times, just like that. And we're all moving a little differently with our own breaths. That's fine. As you begin your 4th inhale, you can either roll up the spine, you can take reverse swan dive, you can rise up through chair if you would like to. Coming to arms overhead here in tall mountain. Maybe lifting the heels. Oh, good heels in here today. There's no popping and cracking. Exhale, heels to the floor. Ankles, I guess that is. Hopefully our heels are not popping and cracking. Hands alongside the body here in your mountain pose with a very real and felt sense of lift through the heart. Coming here into a crescent, a standing crescent stretch. Focusing a little bit more on stretching through the front of the hips here. We're going to put more weight into the right foot. Take the left toes back just in line with the heel. Some of us may stay here. Some of us might start to take the edge of the left foot off to the right. You'll have to put a bend in that right knee, probably if you do that far. And on the inhale, reach the arms up and overhead. Let the right hand find the left wrist. Lengthen on the left. Exhale, reach to the right as you continue to send left hip forward. Right armpit, right shoulder blade forward, twisting a little bit more to the sky. Nice inhale to find more space. Next exhale to settle into that space. And on the inhale that follows, come back up. Be careful with that back foot. Bring it back to meet wherever you started. Hands back to hips. Now on the left side, heavy. Right foot comes back, maybe toes in line with the heel, or the blade edge of the right foot further behind you and off to the left. With the inhale, reach wide up and overhead. Left hand takes right wrist. Lengthen on the right with the inhale. Exhale, reach to the left. Press right hip forward. Press left shoulder blade forward. Inhale to reach a little bit more. Exhale to settle into the bigger crescent stretch. And on the next inhale, the arms come up first. Plant your right foot alongside the left wherever it needs to be for you. Just shake out the shoulders, the hips, the feet. Good. With everybody's next inhale, from space here, arms alongside the body, let the palms spin out a little bit so you're reaching up and overhead. Hands hug the center. You might not go too much further than this depending on how it feels. Maybe it's finger pads touching, maybe it's palms touching, maybe it is biceps hugging alongside the ears, and on the exhale, elbows bend, bring the thumbs to the nape of the neck. Doesn't mean they're touching, but it's hugging toward. There's a tendency for the arms to move wide. That's all right. If there's space to hug to center, even if they don't move, find that midline centering energy for yourself. You might also find the body wants to start to come into a back bend. Can you fire up the front side of the body to pull yourself forward so there's a deeper stretch through the triceps and the upper body? Next, inhale. Start to straighten the elbows, reaching up and overhead. Turn the palms away from each other. Press them away and down so you have this sense of lift through the torso here. And then with the palms facing toward the back body, bring your back of your left hand to the low back on the left side. Bring the back of the right hand to the low back on the right side. Hands press into the low back. Low back pushes back into the hands, and maybe the elbows start to stretch wider and away from the front body. Good. Nice full breath in, and on the exhale, release hands by your sides. Find yourself more toward the top of your mat. I think we're all pretty much there. Second toes pointing forward, depending on, regardless of how close or not the feet are. And on the next inhale, as the arms reach up and overhead, sit back and down, chair pose, Utkatasana. Take a look down. If you can't see your toes, can you send your knees back just a little bit more? Maybe a lot more, even if it's just for a second. Maybe hinge more deeply at the hips, sitting back and down into a lower chair. Good. You can stay here with arms overhead. You can certainly bring hands to hips if you would like to. Staying deep in the chair or coming out of it as much as you might need to. Put more weight into the right foot. Hug the left heel to left sit bone. So now we're in like a one-legged balancing chair. Extend out through that left heel. Then the left foot reaches back to land in crescent lunge. As much of a bend in that back knee as you need to find length here through the spine without coming into a back bend. Good. Hands can stay on hips. You can frame out that right foot if you would like to. You can reach the arms up. But as inner thighs hug to center, as front and back feet hug to center, draw everything to your middle as you start to lower the back knee down to the floor. Hands come back to the right knee, find a deeper lunge, maybe take that back knee a little further back. An opportunity here for strap if you would like to as well. So if you need to come out of it a little bit to get your strap for more of a chest opening, you can take hold of the strap behind you with the palms forward and outer shoulders with hip width distance. You can bring the hands to the low back, either palms touching or like we just did a second ago with the back of the hands. Or maybe you can interlace the fingers, press the heels of the palms together, and on the exhale, as you deepen the lunge, lift through the heart, and now we're intentionally finding more of the back bend here. You might not go further than this with the hands. If you have the hands interlaced though, you might start to reach back through the interlaced hands, continue to try to pull them apart, to really look out for the wrist, elbows, and shoulders as you take the arms long behind you. Stay strong through your core as the heart lifts. And at the very end here, maybe if it's right for your body, the chin starts to lift up to take the head back without the head falling back. Good. One more breath here. Inhaling and exhaling to settle. Your next inhale, lead with the breath and the heart to come upright. Free up the hands. Place them to the inside of the right foot. Coming here into Skandasana, both sides. Tuck, back toes tuck, back knee lifts. Back heel spins down first like warrior two, but once you get that heel down, turn the ball or the toes more toward that back corner of your mat and walk the hands back to the inside of your left foot.
Knee deeply. Right leg finds itself in something like half split once again for Skandasana. When we come through this the second time, I should see what's going on here. When I come through the second time, there'll be some other opportunities for everybody. Good. Spin your back foot down and away from you, your new back foot. Walk it to the other side of your Skandasana. So we're here toward the top part of our mats now. Maybe those toes spin up, deep in that front knee, grounded through that heel if you can. Good, and on the next inhale, at the top of your mat, or walking to the top of your mat, wherever you happen to be, frame out the foot. Pause for the breath with that front foot framed out. You can keep the back heel lifted like Warrior One or like Crescent Lunge. You can bring that back foot just one footprint further closer to the top of your mat, so you can bring the ankle down for a Warrior One foundation. And on the inhale, staying deep in that front knee, reach the arms up and overhead, Virabhadrasana 1. Same thing, palms, finger pads maybe, or just hands hugging to center here. Biceps framing out the ears, and if you'd like to interlace the fingers, except for the pointer fingers, reaching to the sky here in Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. I'm not going to be for everybody, but if you would like to, and it's something you've done before, something that feels right in your body here in the moment, we're going to come into Parsvottanasana, or pyramid pose. And one of the other options that we have here for that is to take the arms wide, to bring the hands to the low back once again. You can either take hold of opposite forearms, or maybe the finger pads touch once again and we find reverse namaste behind the low back. That wants to create this back bend shape. That's not what we're going for. So can you fire up the front body to lengthen the back body? Press your right leg towards straight. Left hip continues to come forward, and keeping the heart lifting on the exhale, little bend or not through that front knee. Start to reach heart forward as you fold forward, probably stopping at about the halfway point to start. If you can go further, you're more than welcome to. You can stay here. You can release the hands to the floor or to blocks if that helps you to go deeper with your pyramid posture. Or intense side stretch. Everyone's feeling something in that right leg, right? Good. Nice. Inhale to lift a little bit. Find a little more length. Let your next exhale take you to a deeper variation. Doesn't mean it looks deeper, but there is a sense of something changing and happening that deepens the experience. And on the inhale, start to push into that right foot to give you the support to come up. As you put a bend back into that front knee, bring your left hand to the floor, spin your left heel up. You can walk that right foot off to the right and halfway back your mat as you spin onto the blade edge of the left foot for a supported side plank. You can keep on walking that right foot back and bring the heel in front of the toes with your right arm to the sky. You can stack the feet here. If you're stacking the feet, push through the big toe ball mounds of both feet so the ankles are neutral, and specifically the lower ankle is off the floor. And anybody who wants to turn this into a wild thing, go for it. Yes, being mindful of the things you've got around you. Good. Back to unflip your wild thing, back to your down dog. Walk, step, hop, or jump to the top of your mats. Hang ragdoll style if you need to. More active in your Uttanasana if you would like to, knowing that we have to do that, mostly that same thing on the second side.
And as you're ready, you can start to roll up through the spine. Reverse swan dive through chair, but there's a deep chair coming, so be mindful of that. Inhale to reach and lengthen. Palms turn away, and on the exhale, pull down through the air to find all that lift and length once again. We got side two for all of that now. Find yourself in your mountain pose. Again, arms can be overhead or hands can be on the hips if you would like to. Sit back and down into your chair. A little further back, a little deeper here to start, not letting the toes grip the mat to hold you. Put more weight into the left foot this time, that's right? Right heel lifts, right big toe ball mound lifts. Staying deep in the chair, start to bend that knee even more, heel to sit bone for a moment in balance before you extend the right foot back and keep on extending it back until you find yourself in your crescent. Good. Reset in your crescent. Arms can reach overhead, but we draw to our center. And as that center, that's the part that's descending toward the ground here. So on the next exhale, that right knee starts to bend, and bend a little more, and bend a lot more. Heels lifted, knee down, hands find your left thigh to start. Exhale a little more deeply into the lunge. Lengthen through the spine. Intentionally support a little bit more back bend by getting lighter through the chest, through the shoulders. You can take a strap once again. You can take hands to low back of the hands to low back. You can interlace the fingers. If you do so, can you do it the exotic way with a different pinky finger at the base of the interlace? There it is. And try pulling the hands apart if you have the interlace. So we're looking out for the length of the arms here as we lengthen the arms, reaching out through the interlaced fingers. Back of my right hand is pressing into my right inner thigh. That gives me some extra support to lunge a little further forward, to lift a little higher. And at the height of your back bend here, lengthen through the crown of the head, and then start to tilt the chin up if that's right for you. Good. Inhale to come back up. Bring both hands to the inside of your left foot. Lift the right knee. Take the right foot down first into warrior two stance. Then either bring the heel closer in or turn the toes out. And walk the hand back to the inside of your right foot. As that knee bends deeply, the left leg is longer and lengthening, Skandasana. Maybe you bring your hands to heart center here and you have tricep pressing into inner thigh. So now we're in balance here. Good. You can stay in your balance and move your Skandasana to the front of the mat. You can bring your hands to the floor to walk yourself to the front of the mat and then come back into balance if that is the safer option. And that balance feels good. Second time on each side, and this feels like easy breezy, right? Good. We're at the top of our mats again. Bring the hands to frame out that foot. Adjust yourself into, that's going to be on the same side, I think, right? If it is, switch sides. I walked around, I totally lost my place here. We want to find warrior one, different foot on the front. For me, that is my left knee. And so you've got your left knee forward, and that does feel different than the other side. And then I brought us all back to the same page. Good. Deep bend in that front knee. Keep drawing that back hip forward. Even if it isn't completely forward, that action will get us there. And you can always change your back foot to a crescent lunge foot to make that easier. Good. Turn the palms wide. Push down to lift a little taller. Bring the hands to the low back. Maybe take hold of forearms. Maybe bring the fingers and length of the fingers and the palms to touch. elbows press back like we were doing when we were standing. Front body pushes back into the back body. And on the exhales, we take our left leg long. Start hinging from the hips, but keep your heart reaching forward even as you fold in. Find your halfway point or wherever you need to stop with the hands placed as they are. And if you can go further, do so. If you need to release the hands, if you need to make use of blocks, come into Parsvottanasana, your second side. Good. Inhaling to lengthen. Exhaling to fold in. Inhaling to lengthen one more time. And exhale to fold in. And on the next inhale, put a nice bend into that left knee as you come up onto hands. Spin the right heel up. Ground down through the right hand. Take your left foot wide. Turn the toes away from you. Walk them as far back the mat as you would like to for your support to roll onto the blade edge of the right foot. Pushing through the big toe ball mound to keep the ankle strong. Either staying here as you take left arm to the sky, or taking left heel to right toes, or stacking the feet. Side plank, not quite Vashisthasana, but very close to it. And if Wild Thing is right for you on this side, let the breath spin the front body up towards the sky, standing strong in the ball of the back foot to take hips to the sky. Nice. Inhale to unwind. You'll find yourself in down dog, and you can take a breath there, or you can lower fully to the mat. Good. From your down dog to plank, from your plank to the floor, hands, variation of Shalabhasana or locust pose. Press the tops of the feet into the floor to let the knees get light. As you do so, fire up your core. Press more of the pubic bone into the ground. That space between the belly button and the pubic bone is the foundation for the pose. Hands press down to let the shoulders get light. And on the inhale, as you push down through hands and tops of the feet, reach heart to the sky. Let the back body start to curl and contract to rise up. Maybe come onto finger pads. Maybe the palms and hands lift fully. Maybe the hands press down into nothing to get something. And lift a little higher. I see that, everybody. The tops of the feet are a stability here as you rise up higher. But if you would like to, strong through the core here, inner thighs get light to lift legs away from the floor without the knees bending. And on the inhale, lift your chest a little higher. On the exhale, lift the inner thighs a little higher. If you want to do that for one more breath, it is up to you. Otherwise, come down now. And on the exhale, lower down, make a pillow with the hands. Catch your breath. We have a longer time to pause here in just a little bit. Plant the hands alongside you. Press yourself up to a tabletop position, maybe sitting back on the heels. We're going to move to the wall here in just a second for some of us. Not everyone has to. Forearm plank is a great place to practice to build strength. I was saying about doing that for like 20 or 30 seconds and being able to do that consistently in a way that doesn't feel like it is everything that you're giving for it, to be able to move more strongly into dolphin pose. Dolphin pose also is our entry point into a forearm stand. But if forearm stand is not where you want to be today, if it's not where you plan on ever being, or if it's just not part of your practice, you've got your straps. We'll undo our straps. This is all. I should have done this first. Wants to curl up and not do what I wanted to do.
we can measure out the straps to give us an even stronger foundation through the upper body, which doesn't mean that you're going to take it further today, but if you feel stronger because of it, then that strength is one of the things that helps us to move to the next step. So you'll have it undone totally, then you'll take the entire strap through both of the metal rings, and then you'll separate the metal rings and take the strap back on top of the first one, through the second one, and measure. Oh, there it is, yes. And then you'll measure it out on the upper arms, finding about where the measurement is to keep your elbows directly underneath the shoulders. Doing this safely. When I was doing this on Monday, there was someone who had a very strong practice. Their elbows were super wide and it felt really unstable for them, and just bringing them into elbows a little closer, they didn't need any support in rising up or kicking up on their own. So like that foundation, that's the power of the foundation. So you can use this for forearm plank only. You can use this to notice a difference for dolphin pose. If you're interested, middle of the room or against the wall, you can have this on the arms as well for practice in forearm stand to see in what ways that feels different. So if you are currently bound, take it off if you need to move your stuff to against the wall. We'll be here for just a few minutes, keeping in mind here where we are in class. If you would like an inversion, but going into a forearm stand is not right for you, there is plenty of space to play with any kind of inversion, including, because of where we are in class, coming into a space where you have your legs up against the wall and a block underneath the sacrum for a supported inversion called Vipariti Karani. And while everyone's getting yourselves together, just a show of hands, how many people are looking to go into Pincha Mayurasana or forearm stand? 1, 2, 3, great. Maybe more, but we'll see. So we're going to face the wall and have the strap around your upper arms. We'll practice and see how that feels in your forearm stand. For some people, just after a breath or two, we'll move that into, man, all the words today, into dolphin pose. Some people will practice just kicking one foot up and finding little bunny hops to do it. I think, Rachel, you're pretty good at this. I'm not sure, Joanna, if you have a practice here for this, but I'm going to show this against the wall and I can give some extra cues if I need to. Can I use your mat real fast, Carolina? We've been playing with square hips here through the practice. We want to keep square hips because if the hips open and we're trying to hop up, then we're going to move into a space of falling out. So you'll measure your space wherever you need to be, somewhat away from the wall, being mindful of this. We've been doing a lot with stretching through the backs of the legs. We want to get as tight into our dolphin as possible. If we're trying to kick into dolphin from here, that is like so extra work. So in as we can. You're going to your extended and long leg, and the other one is going to be your power. And so we're pushing into the forearms. That's our brakes. That supports us just as much as the wall and catching ourselves. And maybe it is little bunny hops. This leg forward, the bent knee, means that once you get to a place of coming up, you can extend that leg out, and it's probably not going to be possible over because you have that whole lever in front of you. This cable is going to... Switching sides, you can switch sides. Up, weight and strength into the forearm, rising up to the wall. Heels find the wall to meet. Maybe with the support of the feet to the wall, we can start to back bend here into heart toward the interlaced fingers. Maybe the feet come a little bit away from the wall. Maybe they stay here. Come back to neutral to kick out. And then you're there. Then you're there. But if that's not as far as you want to go, that's totally fine. Notice what changes, though, with the strap around the arms, all right? Thank you for letting me use your mat.
Yes. So you're just measuring so that the elbows stay directly out from the shoulders. Too close is not a very strong and big foundation. Too far takes away your power. Yeah. So we'll start with the straps around the upper arms. Find yourself in forearm plank. And just notice how that feels with this very intentional measurement of the forearms that can't change. If you feel ready to move past that, start to walk the feet in into your version of dolphin pose, keeping the back of the head lifted, the foundation, noticing how your dolphin pose feels compared to without that. Maybe you take right leg up, keeping the outer right hip heavy, letting the left knee bend as much as you need to for lots of little bunny hops. Maybe getting to a place, there you are, one big bunny hop, heels to the wall. How does that feel with the strap around the upper arms? Maybe the feet press into the wall as you try to reach the heart more towards your interlaced fingers. Good. Nice. Nice. If anybody would like any support, I can do it for about 30 seconds before we have to move on. As is usual, I could do a 90-minute class, and that's not what we're here for. All right, I will know that people are done because you will find yourself in Balasana for just a few breaths. You don't have to move your stuff back from where you are, but when we are starting to move around again here, do just take your mat a few inches further away from the wall so that you have space. Awesome, great, Joanna. So back bends. We've done some twists. We'll finish with the twist probably, but we will take a fuller variation of Hanumanasana. I say it that way because I never really get past like 3/4 of the way through. And some people don't get that far. Some people can go much further. We're just here to find a bigger stretch, a deeper opening. Again, he just happens to be here at the front of the room for the bigger pose that I had planned for today. So you'll come into a tabletop position to start. Do have your blocks with you, and we'll all be facing toward the front of the room, which means I'm going to reconfuse myself now because I will stop mirroring because we're all facing in different ways. But from your tabletop, probably on blocks, just to be gentler with ourselves as we come into the end of the class. We're going to take the right foot forward, like you're coming into a low lunge. Take that back knee a little further back than you did before, if you've got the space for it. Maybe you can wriggle that right foot a little further forward so that we're already starting to stretch in both directions. Back ball, that foot is grounded and heavy so the heel is pointing straight up. Let the hands walk back as the hips move back. Use blocks if you need to. You don't have to forward fold in this just yet, or it doesn't have to be a very big forward fold. If it feels all right with those back toes tucked and with a lot of support in your hands, you can lift that back knee and extend the leg to take the knee back another inch, another millimeter, another half a foot, whatever it happens to be. So if this is longer than you've been there before, we're just going to take 3 more breaths here, probably 4 or 5, just how everyone knows how I can be with breaths. And you can stay where you are, or you can take another opportunity to take that back knee a little further back, to scooch that front knee or front foot a little further forward for a deeper Hanumanasana. Hanuman is one of those ones that has like 3 different variations. Back knee is bent, and you're reaching back and taking hold of the foot while the heel is reaching towards your upper back, and there is no reason why we have to put ourselves into that to experience all the stuff that we have here. I will never get to that point. I try not to say never, but I'm very sure that that is a very true statement. On the inhale, as I said, I forget my counting. Start to put a little bend in that front knee, whatever you need to bring yourself back to your table so that we can switch sides. So it'll be left foot forward
You can scooch the left foot a little further forward. You can take the right knee a little further back. And exactly the thing. Anjaneyasana, deeper crescent lunge. Start up higher if you need to, on blocks. Let the breath allow the space that we're opening to fold forward a little bit more. Again, knowing from where we were in the beginning of class that the more that we open ourselves to all the things that we might not want to either. And so our choices really matter. And for another 3 or 4 breaths, you can stay where you are and breathe into it. You can scooch that back knee back, that front foot forward if there's space for it. Because it's the inner thigh lifting, you're probably going to be a little bit more toward the outer part. But as you know, if your whole body is moving in that direction, that's a different story. But you look like you're pretty good there. It feels all right on. Start to bend your front knee. Start to rise up a little bit so you adjust and adjust and adjust back into your tabletop position. We're just on the other side of 1 o'clock, as is usually the case for me. If you would like a twist before going into your Shavasana, you'll come to roll onto your backs. Because I'm giving the space, then I'm acknowledging that we're going to go a little longer. And if you're doing it, then I take that as a tacit acknowledgement of staying a little bit more on the other side of 1 o'clock. But on your backs, you can draw knees to chest. And we can do 2 things here because we have choices. One, we can take either keep your right knee to your chest and extend your left leg, twisting to the left by carrying your right leg to that side, or bringing both feet to the floor, knees bent deeply, drawing knees to chest with your arms alongside the body and letting both knees descend to the right. So one is a variation of Supta Padangusthasana C. The other is, Sanskrit. Reclined revolved twist. Let's go with that. If you're in the recline, revolve, twist with both knees to one side, it is a lot more firing up your core to safely lift both knees together. Because we are in an intermediate class, if it's part of your practice, in your full twist here, you can extend both legs so both big toes are reaching toward that hand on that side, and then even more fire through your core to rise up with the legs straight. And then from your place of center, we'll all draw both knees to chest again. For those of you doing the Supta Padangusthasana C variation, you'll hug the left knee to chest still and take your right leg long. That right hand will carry the left knee over the midline for your twist. Or with both feet on the floor, draw both knees in and let both knees descend to the left. Now, I picked a part of class to do different variations here with left and right and crossing over. I hope everyone feels that everyone looks like they are. Otherwise, maybe we've created a new pose. There was like 100 and something when it started. Now we've got about 200 or some because there's A, Bs, and Cs, and 1, 2, 3s, and extra things, new ways of understanding how to move our bodies. If you have your both legs extended long, again, extra strength, extra engagement of your core to safely rise up with your legs extended. If you're in the Padangusthasana C, rise up. We'll all ultimately come to giving ourselves a nice big hug either in Upasana or Happy Baby, Ananda Balasana. Rock back and forth a couple of times. It'll be probably 110 when I bring us out for our final things. If that is more than you've got,
Just give yourself about 6 or 7 breaths in your Shavasana. The things that stay, leave, and I'll collect them. The things that go with you, take them with you. But as you find yourself in Shavasana, let your breath keep you grounded and present in your body, on your mat, in this moment. Before we go deeper here, one more thing to do to change maybe our experience of Shavasana, and that will be to grip, right? We talked about non-attachment in the very beginning, then I stopped talking about it. Really make fists with the hands, curl the toes, scrunch the face, hug the body to center, get yourself tight and very contracted. And on the exhale, release out through the mouth, let everything go. However you land is your Shavasana. Let the experience of the breath keep you here, noticing the rise and fall of the torso, at the same time that you notice the cool air in and the warmer air out. At the same time, maybe that you notice the sensation of air moving out through the nostrils, over the tip of your nose. Each exhale is an opportunity to release physical tension, an opportunity to release any mental tension that does not serve a purpose in this moment. And maybe that there are several breaths needed to clear that out, or that as you release one bigger space of tension, you become more aware of subtler sensations. Let your next inhale be deeper than the last. And your next inhale deeper still. Sending those fuller breaths, that fresher air, that new prana down to the fingers and toes. Making little movements from the very edges of yourselves. And moving up the chain to ankles and wrists, knees and elbows, hips and shoulders. You can turn the head from side to side here a couple of times if you would like to. Whatever you would like to do to continue to reawaken and reintegrate. If you would like a little bit more guidance with that, as we often do, bring the legs to touch and reach the arms overhead. And on the inhale, press fingertips away from toe tips. And on the exhale, heels away from fingertips. Then inhale, toes and fingers away from each other once again. On the exhale, draw elbows and knees to center. Give yourself a nice big hug. You can rock and roll a little bit left to right or along the length of the spine. For those of you who have your feet at the wall, if you are rocking and rolling right on up with your eyes closed, be mindful about how quickly you're coming up. And without you having to fully turn, make a little adjustment closer to the sound of my voice so you don't wake up with the wall in your face. And find your Sukhasana once again with your hands on the thighs or the knees. Returning to this place where we started now about 65 minutes ago, 70 minutes ago. An opportunity to notice the subtle and sometimes not so subtle shifts and changes that happen through the asana, the mindful movement portion of yoga. You're going to stay here just like this. On your next inhale, bring your hands to heart center, returning to Anjali Mudra in this intention of self-reverence as you bring your practice at this moment to a close. And you can be here just in curiosity with yourself and listen to the sound of one Om. Or if you'd like to join in with me, exhale completely to inhale fully. The light in me bows to the light in each of you. Namaste, everyone. All right, thank you everybody for coming out. I know some people didn't know this was my last day. It was announced about 2 weeks ago, and so other things have been happening, I know. I am on the list for longer term subs when somebody's gone for multiple classes, just so there's a consistency with the teacher in those spaces. So you can find me there. There'll be announcements about that when that's happening. If I'm doing that, I will also post that on my Instagram at bsyogi215. You're welcome to check that out then or anytime. And in about about a month, there'll be new dog pictures because I'll have a new puppy. And so that will probably take over most of what I'm posting on there. But stuff posted there about that as well, talking with Meryl about some workshops and things to do maybe starting in June and the possibility of popping on depending on how those things go. I will still be here at the studio. This is my home studio totally. I'll be practicing beside everybody when I'm here, and I love that. So that'll be a thing as well. But be well, stay safe, and enjoy yourselves, all right? Thank you. Yes, of course.
Well, I remember that when you introduced me to